Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at the final issue of Craig Thompson's Ginseng Roots. Sean and I have previously recorded a video about the rest of this series, with trying not to give too much away on it because we both really think this is a Apex comic by an Apex comic creator that everyone should be checking out. This is the final issue of the individual issue releases from Uncivilized Books. You can go get that, and it comes with a box set that all of these issues set in, so it will look really nice on your shelf next to your blankets and your Habibi and your other Craig Thompson books. But I wanted to give a look at the final issue, one last pump for this series, going and grabbing it from Uncivilized, and try to do this without giving too much away. So definitely, if you don't know about this series, go watch the other video. Just a quick summation is that Craig Thompson grew up in Marathon, Wisconsin, which is the home of ginseng production in America. So he's exploring his own life again. It's autobiographical in the way Blankets is, but it's also in the way Habibi was. It's an exploration of a culture other than and religious mindset and world philosophy other than the Christian outlook that Craig Thompson grew up in, except this time there's nothing fictional about it. He's returned to autobiography and research basically for his production. I think that's as a response to the criticism I've been told he got for Habibi, and he's leaning into it as like, look, this is I'm interested in these other cultures because I did grow up around them. They were part of my upbringing. And so naturally, I have an interest in these. And this is really told throughout the book, like how much he cares about this culture of ginseng and how much research he's done. There's even a piece here where he's talking to one of the farmers in his hometown, and he says, "What I do know is that it's been an honor to listen to your family story and have a chance to share it." And the farmer tells him, "My family story is also yours. Mama and Papa Thompson feel like my parents now that mine are gone." So obviously Craig Thompson's writing that. He can make that up if he wanted to, but there's nothing in the book that gives that sense. Like, this is someone who really does have a connection to the community of Hmongs that are in Wisconsin now, growing the ginseng roots, and has a very legitimate reason to be interested in this other culture other than his. I mean, I think anyone that wants to get interested in a culture other than theirs has a legitimate reason, and cross-pollination is a good thing. But for people who hate that kind of thing, I think Craig Thompson has, come back against his critics, self-aware of the problems maybe of his previous books, and is doing it in a less assailable way, hopefully. But it's really well-researched and really interesting. Mixture of the culture that he grew up in and the culture that he grew around. And he's also leaning into the fact that autobiography is uncomfortable, and he's saying this multiple times throughout the book. But here he says, "Mom, I'm worried about how you two will react to the autobiographical scenes in my new book." And, that's because in Blankets, his father's presented as pretty rough and abusive, and there was definitely a hint of sexual abuse of some sort from a babysitter. Things that are very difficult for a family to have to read a book like this big about the problems in their family. And throughout this book, they're obviously aware of it and they talk about it, but they're also supportive. And she says, the first time we read Blankets, we felt like crappy parents. But, like, we aired and life is short and we got to move on, and like, you do what you need to do. So in this one, his parents seem very loving and supportive, and you see all three of his siblings. They all have some trauma, but they seem, like people who love each other. There's just, with Craig Thompson, he's such a stellar cartoonist, such a stellar draftsperson and inker, such great use of textures. And then on pages like this, you can see he never spares any, like, there's always packed ton full of detail. And in this book, there's some really beautiful production stuff going on because of this second spot color. And Thompson's really using that. He almost paints with it. Like, he'll mix the grays and the reds together to get these other in-between colors that it almost looks colorized. There's some really beautiful stuff here where he scanned these old school printer paper stacks that him and his brother would get a hold of. You can see that they would draw on these. That's where how they would do their comics as kids. And so you have scans of those old comics. And it looks, I don't know if that's just how it's presented here, but it looks like maybe they were drawing with red crayons. And so the red and black is linked to that. There's a reason it's linked to the ginseng as well. And Sean in our video had some pretty interesting ideas about how it's related to Thompson's upbringing as Christianity. But when you see a page like this, like, I don't know how this isn't, one of the books of the year on everyone's list, because this is just such stunning art all the way throughout. Here you can see again, some of the just really awesome layouts and detail-packed imagery. Also some really good writing. This character says it's not about location, it's about process. And I really like that. Since dealing with the AI, me and Sean are both falling much more on the side of the process of making something is almost more important than the end result. And it's that same idea of like the journey is more important than the destination. So lots of little nuggets of wisdom like that. He shows what's going on in Portland now because that's where he lives. This is pretty typical scene all over the West Coast now, all the way from the southern to the northern border of the U.S. on the West Coast is just infested with tent cities and things like this. So a real clear picture of what's going on in those states. As my home state of California is falling apart, my hometown, it's looking more and more like that. It's really sad. Some of the very kind of playful, symbolic stuff that Thompson does throughout the series, he's constantly building symbols and loading everything with meaning. He's really, really good at just synergizing symbols to mean multiple things at once. But right here, how he's got the how I am. This is also it says home off of here and me, I am. Like there's just all kinds of things packed into here. And this is related to a Chinese stamp chop that he got. It's just so much meaning built up throughout the series. So really, really beautiful, impressive series. Really interesting facts all throughout. A lot of wisdom. I think this is about as good as comics could get, especially autobiographical comics. It has a research and reporting component. It's very interesting. It's not just like diaristic comics. It's using autobiography to explore other people and other things and other ideas and show your relationship to it. And then in the end here, you get some process shots. So you get some of the penciling. You get a look at the second tone that he was laying down. So how this was done in production. He says in here that he initially was thinking about doing it in ink wash, but it seems like in talking to Tom Kaczynski about how the reproduction would work, they made all the right choices of doing the black and the red separate from each other so they could really control the fidelity of the line work. So instead of using like washes and stuff, there's lots of Craig Thompson's dry brush effects. There's a lot of tone effects and things like that. So it seems like there was a pretty complex set of manipulations done on the computer afterwards, but it all comes together to be this like flawless presentation. And I think Thompson really plays with as many different print looks as possible. Like there are some areas like this where the red is printed over the gray and you see through the red. There's other areas where like the red is trapped and so it goes over the gray or the black without the black showing through. Really just fine-tuned control over every last decision throughout, and then some really cool features here in the final one at the end, seeing some of his pencils, seeing some more of those cartoons that they made as kids. It's just a really cool complete package. He is acknowledging that there will be a graphic novel out in 2025 from Pantheon that will be reorganized a little bit with some extra maybe stitch arts to stitch it together after he's able to go back and look at the whole thing. But what probably won't be collected is all of this extra material, all of the letters and stuff that he's received. He has responses from all of the characters that he's interviewed. He's let them come back and relook at it. So I really do think that this is the proper way to own it, is an issue at a time. It's got all the extras. You see him searching for it as he goes instead of coming back and he's such a great manipulator and setup of like symbolism and stuff. I think actually having the time to go back and go over the thing may actually make him overdo that aspect, whereas this has the exploratory part built into it. But yeah, I'm also curious. I'm curious to see what the differences are. But I would go out while Uncivilized still has it, and get the box set now that it's all together in a set of 12 issues. You should be able to get them all. I think it's pretty limited, but get them all in the box set, and then you can put it on your shelf as a graphic novel, but have all the little extras that come with these and the really cool production. It's hard to imagine the production being done better than this on the graphic novel version. The other thing that I do know about the production of this one is that this was published very close to where Tom Kaczynski's at in St. Paul, Minnesota. Sean has talked to him about where they printed it. It's somewhere not too far away, and so they were able to have a real close collaborative relationship on the production of this with the printer, which is a really, really cool thing. And I'm not sure that that will be the same thing in the graphic novel either, coming from a big place like Pantheon. So this to me feels like the version that I'm supposed to be getting. There's a reason it was put out in a form like this. So definitely go get copies of this while it still exists. And if you can't, then you got a couple years to wait, but you'll be able to get this in graphic novel form. And I think this is a must-have classic comic. The Eisner nominated The Strange Death of Alex Raymond by Dave Sim and myself. This is a gorgeously illustrated and designed book. Dave doing most of the illustration. Amazing compositions throughout. What Dave is doing is he's recording his obsession with the death of master cartoonist Alex Raymond behind the wheel of Stan Drake's car when they got into a car crash. The best description of the book that I've heard is that it's like understanding comics with pages like this, mixed with something like From Hell when you get into the theories about what actually happened with the car crash. And then with Sean on production, it's just one of the most gorgeously printed books you could get a hold of.
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.